Karen the Warp Spinster here. Welcome to my channel where we cut and sew and see what happens. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you all. I'm going to, I don't know how this is going to go. They are cutting down a huge tree across the street from me, and I'm going to try to do this in between all their chainsawing before they get started on chewing up the branches. I love that tree. I know it needed to come down. It was not doing well, but oh man, I love that tree. Beautiful tree. So today I am going to go back to art inspiration, and this time I am basing it on mobiles. So like Calder, I think Paul Klee had some. They've always fascinated me because I wish I had that kind of balance in my life. How they balance everything out, the weights and the lengths and so on. So I thought I would do something just inspired by that. It is not going to be balanced. If you were to recreate this in the real world with wire and whatnot, it would not be balanced. But that's the inspiration. And I'm thinking of one in particular. I believe it's a Calder in our local art museum. And the wires are bent. And some are longer and some are shorter, and, you know, like a typical mobile, they're hanging from one side or the other and balanced out. But I think I'm just going to do some black and white with some narrow improv curve strips of black against the white. And then there will probably be some vertical straight pieces. Not necessarily where you would find them on a mobile. Maybe the curves will run through them. I don't know. And then just have some shapes that are appliqued on top, whatever. Maybe some will be pieced and inserted, but I just want to do some improv curves with the black and the white. I can kind of see this as a good-sized wall hanging or quilt, but I'm not necessarily going to be working in that kind of scale today. I just kind of want to see how things look and how they might work out. So the first thing I'm going to do is take some black and white here. I have a lot of black and white in my stash. Let me press. Not a great pressing job, but I'm trying to do this in between saws sounds. First thing I'm going to do, this is going to be a fairly long one, is just cut a curve. Probably a pretty gentle one. You don't see too many really huge. Yep, there we go. And then I will cut that same curve on this black piece. And if I can hear this on the film, I will do my best to edit that out. So I'm just going to cut the same curve on this piece, stitch it together. I'll put a link below to the video where I show how I do my improv curves. And then I'll come back and hopefully they'll mostly be done sawing. This could be quite disjointed. They're getting to the huge trunk of the tree now. I have this curve. It's a pretty even curve, actually. I'm sort of surprised. And now I need to cut what is going to be the wire on it. And of course, a wire is the same gauge all the way. And it would be very narrow, but there's nothing that says that I have to do that. When I'm cutting this, I have to keep in mind that I still have a 1/4 inch coming off here for seam, so I don't want to make it too narrow, and it does not have to be, oops, sorry, does not have to be an even gauge, shall we say, all the way across. And you can see that is not going to be. So I have a piece here that I can use for another curve, and I also have that piece I can use for another curve. For this one, I'm going to move up to here, and obviously this will be trimmed off in the end and all of that, but for now, Now, if you are uncomfortable doing this, and if I was cutting more than 2 layers, I would probably have a protective glove on. But I'm being very careful. As someone who has cut off the tip of her finger before, I'm going to be kind of careful. All right, so here's another curve. Just going to sew that in the same fashion while they work on the trunk of the tree. Here's our curve, our first curve, and now I'm going to use these leftover pieces to do another one, and I can actually even do it from this piece of white. Maybe not, because I want to leave room to do other things here. It may well be that I trim that off, but let's not do that right off the bat. So I think I'm going to do a smaller one, and I'll cut a little bit different curve on this so they don't all look the same. And we'll just go ahead and do that and come back, see if we can avoid the saw. Now on this one, unpressed, sorry, I need this first curve, this bottom curve, so I cut that out from this piece, and that will be my first cut, and then I can maybe change this curve if I want to. I cut it a little differently. I did cut a little bit off from the scrap piece that I had, but I will probably just match this curve then with what's left of the white. If these were on a mobile, they would be hanging something like this, and then they'd have more hanging from there, but we don't necessarily have to do that. We can put them at angles. We can put them upside down like that. We can cross through them. Lots of choices we have, even before we get to the shapes, the geometric shapes that will go on there. For this one, I want to try just bisecting it, inserting a slice here, and the slice will be black. So I will go ahead and do that. I think I'm going to make it vertical. Wouldn't have to be, but I think I'm going to make it vertical in the spirit of mobile. I have trimmed these two up a bit just so we can see what we're working with, and I really like this cross piece. I'm wondering if I might want to do one at an angle, but I'm not sure that I do. I might want to curve at an angle, perhaps, or maybe not. I don't know, honestly. And if we were to put these two together, for example, then this would be an opportunity to put something here, but we could also construct them more like this, where they don't really, ooh, I'm really kind of liking that look, where they don't really have that mobile relationship to each other. But I think that's kind of cool. I need to dive for some circles now. You know that I tend more toward solids than I do prints, but I do have a print here because I think it could be kind of fun. And we could have them just hanging out anywhere, or we could have them hanging at the end of a strip. We could have them overlapping. We could even probably do different sizes. But I would still want a visual balance, even though if you were to make it out of wire and whatever, this would not balance as a mobile. I can pretty much guarantee it. But you could, I still want it to balance visually, so I'll want the larger circles in general at the bottom. Not entirely, but, and I'll want the left to balance with the right generally, etc., etc. But I think as we build in, we could do other shapes as well, of course. And I think as we build in more of these wire strips, I will call them, we could layer things as well, so that those are, I always try to avoid having them look like eyeballs. Sometimes successfully and sometimes not. Well, sometimes I want them to look like eyeballs. Oh, it might be kind of fun just to do a layering activity, kind of shading and layering activity at some point. Really not at this point, but at some point. Let's put a yellow in there. And I would probably, for these, as I'm thinking about it now, would be quite large and quite bright. I want it to be bold and, I don't know, just, it's almost an in-your-face kind of thing. So the black strips would be fairly fine, and then the circles or whatever the shapes would be large. I'm going to do a couple more, possibly, well, probably smaller of the curved pieces and see what we might want to put together. It's no holds barred, I guess. One of the things that I could have done here, I was able to match this up pretty well. This is not quite replacing what I lose to the seam. So this was never going to be a perfect extension of the curve, but it turned out really well. I'm pretty happy with it, actually. A couple other things I could have done would be to shift this so it was obviously off and it wasn't just me with bad piecing or careless piecing. Or I could have started with a piece of white with this already in it and then cut the curve through that. But I would still have had to match these two ends. So 6 of one, half dozen of the other, I suppose. All right, I will make a couple more of these black strip pieces and we'll play for a little bit. As I'm inserting this strip in this small one, I could do it this way, but I don't think that's a look that I want here. Maybe it is. Maybe it is. Well, all right, let's look at it this way. And is that better? The other way adds some interest, maybe. Of course, I don't have to try to match those up, but that's not a big deal. All right, let me get some circles again. I don't know why I didn't just leave them here. It's the state of my brain at the moment, I guess. And it wouldn't necessarily be over there, of course. Do we have this here and a yellow one down here and blue one up here, vice versa? I don't know. Now it has a sort of Mondrian kind of look to it with curves instead of straight boxes. That's not bad. I will make it that way. I'll sew it that way, and we're just playing, so we shall see what happens. That's what we do here, right? I'm going to leave the circles here because at some point I'm probably going to want them again. Could be other shapes. Don't know how I'm going to place them at this point, but I'll go ahead and sew that and maybe do another one just to see how it might all come together. Maybe. This is coming along. I think I need more pieces to figure out exactly how I want this laid out, but I'm liking this concept. Well, what happens if I turn this? Say that isn't there. And have everything. Ooh, I'm liking that too. I don't know. Maybe I don't want that. This looks more mobile-like, which is not necessarily my goal. But I could do, say, a black strip here, which puts it all kind of together, or maybe through here and down. I don't know. I may like this better than the other way. And this looks kind of like an anomaly now. I don't know. We'll have to see. We've got lots of opportunities to figure that out and play with it all. I think it will be circles. There could be lots of different shapes. The Calder I'm thinking of has sort of rounded corners of triangles and squares, etc. Or I maybe just made that up in my head. I don't know. Let me know what you think. This, I think I would rather have this going over the top, maybe. And then a strip, maybe just a strip through here. All right, let me put this back, see what I think. That makes a big difference. I'm not sure if I like the difference or not, but it does make a big difference. To my eye, anyway. Let me know what you think. I think this, I don't know, maybe do we want a strip coming down there? Maybe a curve coming down there, kind of like this one. I guess that will be it for this week. Let me know what you think about the orientation. Do you like this one spread apart or flipped like this? Do you prefer just the straight curve that might have a split down the middle? And maybe this needs a piece down here. I don't know. What do you think? Let me know. Not sure about next week. We shall see. I hope to see you then, whatever we end up doing. In the meantime, be well, be safe, be happy, be quilting. Peace out.